Hello and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you how to complete the pretty playdate dress that you can find as a free pattern on my website. This is a fun pattern for kids. This is a t-shirt dress. Basically, I purchased a t-shirt that you can find anywhere. Mine, I came from Walmart, just an inexpensive little t-shirt that I picked up. And what I ended up doing is crocheting a skirt on the bottom of that t-shirt. And I used the Caron Cotton Cakes, which is one of my very favorite cotton yarns. This is a blend. It's from Yarn Inspirations. It's a blend of cotton and acrylic, so it's 60% cotton and 40% acrylic. And the color that I'm going to be using for my pattern today is Hollyhock, which is a really bright color. There's some pink and there's some yellow, cream. It's just a really pretty bright summery color. And this yarn is perfect for this pattern. When you're trying to crochet something that would be appropriate for more summer garments, cotton is certainly the way to go. It's a little bit more breathable than what you would get with like 100% acrylic. And this yarn, if you haven't used it, is just lovely. You can see here my original one that I designed. I wanted to do something a little bit fun on the top, something a little bit unique that would give it a little bit of decoration that wouldn't just simply be an applique of any kind. So I didn't have much yarn left because I will tell you the size here that I made is for a size 7/8 little girl. And for a size 7/8, to get it to about her knees, I needed to use the entire cake of yarn in order to get to the length that I needed with this t-shirt. So I just had a very little bit of yarn left, and I still wanted to make something kind of fun for this. So I did a chain necklace, and I didn't go all the way around. It basically just comes up to the top seam on both sides, and I tacked it in so it will hang on the dress permanently. These are just plastic little color coordinated buttons that I found at the craft store. I think Hobby Lobby is where I got these. And these are 1 1/4 inch buttons, but you could certainly use any size button that you would like. I thought these were just a lot of really fun color, bright little addition to this little playdate dress. Now, a couple of notes about this. Of course, t-shirts are not all made the same. The length of every shirt you're going to find is going to be different. The one I'm going to be using today, I'm going to be making it in the size 7/8 again. So I will use the entire cake again. But I have made this also in the size 4 for a smaller little girl. And the t-shirt was actually shaped a little bit differently at the bottom of the hem. And I'll show you that it really doesn't make any difference what your t-shirt design is, the length of your t-shirt. You're just going to go to the length that you want, and you're going to just follow the bottom of your t-shirt regardless of whether it's squared off like this one or a little bit rounded. And how you do that is with this magic little tool that is just will rock your world if you like to make things that are mixed media. So if you like to add yarn to blankets or crochet fleece together in squares, it's perfect for this. Towels, to add towel toppers, crochet towel toppers to towels that you would get at the store. This little tool will just make your life so much easier. It's amazing. It's a rotary cutter or skip stitch cutter. They come with different blades. You can get them with just a straight edge, so you could just cut a piece of fabric. like a pair of scissors. This one is a skip stitch blade, and that's what you're going to want when you're adding crochet onto fabric, because as you can see, and I'm going to pull this out and get this close so that you can see it. So you can see here that there's these little bump outs. It's a skip stitch blade. So basically these are the areas that are actually cutting your fabric. Then there's no cut in between these two bumps. So it's the perfect difference, the perfect distance to put crochet stitches in. So I will show you here in a minute how we would do that on this t-shirt. But I will show you how it ended up here. So you can see that those stitches are the perfect distance apart using that blade cutting the holes in that t-shirt. And it's just a quick add, and you are ready to go on anything that you're wanting to add crochet to. So let me put this aside. And this is what you're going to need. You can see here I've got a mat, and this is one of those little cutting mats, and it's designed for that. So that way when you run your blade over top of it, it doesn't cut. You know, if you were to do this on your counter or some other place not designed to have a rotary cutter run across it, you're going to end up with scratches in your surface. This has a little bit of a give. It's like a foam. You can see here the thickness. It's a little bit of a foam, but it's denser than a foam. It's hard, but when you run your rotary cutter through it, you aren't going to be left with a visible cut mark. So you can use this over and over and over and over and over again. Fairly inexpensive, and actually this is another indispensable item that I have in my craft room that I use for multiple different projects. So you're going to want something that you're going to be able to use to run your rotary cutter over. So then you're going to have your rotary cutter with your skip stitch blade, as we discussed, your t-shirt, whatever size you would like to make. People have asked me, could you do this with for an adult? Could you make this adult size? Absolutely. This is going to be easily customizable. I haven't actually done it to see what it looks like, but I can't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run the bottom hem of that over top, basically shoving that mat inside the t-shirt. So I only have one side of the t-shirt here. I don't want to have both of the bottom of the t-shirt on here to cut through at the same time. I want to only cut through one thickness of the t-shirt at once. And what I will end up doing is then pulling this around to go all the way around the other side of the t-shirt as well. So once you have put that t-shirt over top of your mat, and what I do is I start at one end of the hem. So at the side seam here is where I like to start when I'm doing this. So you're going to want this kind of pulled a little bit tautly. I mean, not really pulling it. You don't want to stretch the fabric at all, but you want this to be a smooth surface for you to be able to cut. And so you want to be able to keep those holes evenly spaced throughout your t-shirt. So you're going to take your blade, and it'll have different features. That's a little safety button, so that way when you click it, it comes back up and it won't let you push it out. So that way if you have little kids around and you have this lying around, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is a safety feature to have that little button. So you push that safety button in order to pull the trigger and pull the blade out. Once you've pulled the blade out where you want it, you can release that safety button and the blade stays out, and I don't have to put any pressure in order to keep the blade out to where I can work with it. And then once I am finished, you just click it back into place with that safety button. So there you go. So click that safety button, pull the trigger, let go of that safety button, and I'm good to go. I'm starting here at the seam. Now, you have a choice here. I wanted to go through both thicknesses of the hem. So you can see here this t-shirt has been hemmed up, and so this is a double thickness. The hem is, of course, a double thickness of the t-shirt. So I feel that gives you a little bit more stability. Some people like to do it above the seam, and then you have your stitch going over the whole bottom hem, and that's, again, entirely up to you. I think it gives a little bit more stability, and I don't necessarily want to have stitches that are that deep into my shirt. I want them a little bit shorter. So what I'm doing is I am going about half the distance in between the bottom and the hem. So I'm going to be running my blade right about halfway in between. And that's going to be important, that you just keep that blade running along that mid portion of your hem, so that way you don't have this, you know, you're going along here and all of a sudden it gets smaller and then it gets wider. You don't want this wavy thing. The most important thing here is to just keep it even all the way along your edge. So let's go ahead and show you how it's done. So starting at the seam, I'm gonna just gently place my blade where I want the seam to be, or where I want the holes to go, and gently just press that first blade into my t-shirt. And then I'm going to just, with even pressure, and you want enough pressure on this so that your blade is actually going through the fabric into the mat. You want to have some pretty firm, even pressure. And what you're going to do is just slowly run that blade evenly down, keeping that same distance. All right, so I'm keeping even pressure, and I'm continuing along that bottom edge, just gently pushing the blade into my fabric, keeping that even pressure as I'm running along that bottom hem. Now, let's say something happens and you get interrupted, you have to walk away, and you're in the middle of putting those holes in the bottom edge. And you think, oh my word, I just completely lost where I was at. I'm gonna mess this all up. No worries at all. So what you do is you just, and I don't know, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see it here, but you can see those holes. If you gently, you see that? I'm gonna push this down here a little bit. So if you, and you can even see it better if you hold it up to the light, but you can see where those holes are if you just gently pull those apart. And you can see, so then if you lose your place, if you get interrupted, if you don't finish it all in one setting, and anyway, even when you get to the edge, when you're pulling your t-shirt down to do the other side, you're gonna take your blade off, or should take your blade off in order to do that. So when you do that, you just figure out, where's my last hole. So just pull this aside, pull this apart till we get to our last hole. So it looks like this was my last hole that I made. So simply put your blade right back in that same hole, stand it up, put some pressure, and just keep on moving along. So very easy. Don't worry and stress about, oh my word, I'm gonna lose my place. Nothing to be concerned about at all. Since I'm getting to the edge here, my other side seam, I'm gonna go ahead and bring more of my t-shirt around to give me some more to work with here. So again, I'm gonna figure out where was my last hole. Looks like it was here. Stick that blade back in, pull your fabric a little bit taut, and keep on going right through that side seam. And again, I'll move my t-shirt down. Give me some more fabric to work with. Figure out where my last hole was, right here. Stick one of my blades in that same hole. And on we go. Pull some more down, and look, I'm getting to my first edge, my first seam where I started originally. Find my last hole, which is right here. Blade goes in that hole. And just continue until we get back to that first seam. I have put holes now all the way around the bottom edge of that t-shirt. And see, you can pull these apart a little bit. And actually, let me get that out of the way because I'll be able to better see it. You can see here, those holes are evenly spaced all the way through both thicknesses of the bottom of that t-shirt, and I'm going to be able to place my crochet stitches in each of those holes as we go around. Some notes about the pattern for the skirt. So basically what I'm doing is, and I can get rid of my blade now, release that safety button, and it brings that blade back up, and set that aside. So I'm doing what I would call a blocked V-stitch pattern for this skirt. And a blocked V-stitch, working in the round like this, I'm going to need multiples of 2. So as long as I have my starting single crochet round is in multiples of 2, I can complete this pattern. So let's say I end up with an uneven number of holes at the bottom, because I have no idea at this point how many holes are at the bottom of this t-shirt. So what you'll do to get to that multiple of 2, when you get all the way around the bottom edge and you get to your last couple of stitches, you're going to want to count where you are, how many stitches you're going to have, and what you will need to do is, if you have an uneven number in that last stitch of your round, you're going to just do 2 stitches in that last stitch at the seam, and that will give you multiples of 2. The other thing I will say about this is a very slim fitting skirt. So if you want something a little more full, so if you want to start out to where it's not quite as slim fitting as this skirt, I would recommend putting in extra stitches along your first row, and that will make your pattern a little bit fuller as you go down. it won't be quite as slim fitting as this, which for me, this is fine. These were for skinny little girls, and they actually look quite nice in the slim fit as the pattern is. But of course, you could certainly make yours fuller if you would like to do that. You're going to, of course, use more yarn in order to get to the length desired. The other thing is I would recommend adding in those stitches evenly across. You know, maybe you want it not that much, not much more full than what the pattern states. So maybe every 10 stitches you will do two single crochets in the same hole. But make sure you do those evenly around so they are evenly spaced across the bottom of your t-shirt. So whatever you would like to do, this is one of those, however you want to do it is entirely up to you. As I stated earlier, I had also made one for a size 4 little girl, and the t-shirt was not as squared off as this one. You can, well, I guess you can see. So when I have this flat, you can see that the bottom of the t-shirt is actually rounded. No problem. Just run your blade evenly, keeping it spaced halfway in between the bottom edge of the t-shirt and the hem, and it will end up following the edge, and that pattern can just be done on the bottom of that t-shirt just the same as on a squared t-shirt. So don't be afraid. Any kind of t-shirt shape, you're going to be able to do this pattern. For your crochet hook, you're going to use the recommended hook size for this yarn, which is a size H or a 5.0 millimeter hook, and I have my trusty Clover crochet hook here for us. You're going to get your yarn attached to your skirt. So and I always like to start out at the side seam. This is going to make the ends of your rounds a little bit more disguised when they're on the side of the skirt rather than in the front, in the middle, as we can see here. You know, your chain, your chains at the beginning of your rows, they always look a little bit different, and so it's nicer to have those a little bit more disguised. So make sure that you start your round at one of the side seams. Makes no difference which one, but that's going to disguise your beginning rounds, the beginning of each round a little bit better. So what you're going to do to get started is you're going to find a hole. And you can see here, this is okay too. What ended up happening is this was where I started making my holes, and this is where I ended up. And sometimes those holes don't exactly match up as you're going around, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and choose this hole. And what I will probably do at the end is I will not use that hole because those two holes are so close together. This will be my final hole. Go ahead and pick the first hole that you're going to start with, and you're going to attach with a single crochet. Once we've attached with a single crochet into our first hole, we're just going to work a single crochet evenly all the way around the bottom edge of that t-shirt. So in the next hole, insert your hook and pull up a loop and single crochet. You are going to want to make those somewhat loose. I'm going to show you here. So I insert my hook, and let's say I make this really tight. I don't pull up my loop far enough, and I keep it way down far here. What's going to happen is it's going to end up bunching my fabric. It's gonna look wonky. So what I want to do is I want to pull up that single crochet loop kind of tall and make it a little bit loose so it's not bunching up my fabric. So just continue on around the bottom edge, making sure that you grab each hole, not skipping any, keeping your single crochets pretty loose, tall, no bunching of fabric. And continue that all the way around your t-shirt. So I've reached the end of my round. I have gotten to my final hole here. I went ahead and counted the stitches that I have currently. So up to this point I have 71 stitches. So of course that's an uneven number, but I have one hole left. So when I put a single crochet in that final hole, I will have the right stitch count. If I had an even number here and I still had one hole left, I would have wanted to put 2 single crochets in this final hole before finishing my round. But this will be the perfect number of stitches to end my round with 72. Okay, so after utilizing that last hole, I'm going to go ahead and finish my round by slip stitching into that first stitch. And I'm going to go ahead now and start row 2. And this is going to be my first row where I start using the V-stitch. And the V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet in the same stitch. So to start out this round, we're going to go ahead and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That chain 4 is going to count as my first double crochet, my first stitch, plus a chain 1. And then I'm going to double crochet in the same stitch. So I've just made my first, that'll count as my first V-stitch. So then I'm going to skip the next stitch and work another V-stitch in the next stitch. So that's going to be a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet in the same stitch. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So skip 1, V-stitch in the next, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, V-stitch after skipping 1, so skip 1, V-stitch in the next, skip stitch, V-stitch in the next, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip the next stitch, V-stitch in the next. And so you will continue this same pattern all the way throughout the end of this round. Skip the next stitch, V-stitch in the next. So I've reached the end of that round. I've done my V-stitch. I have one stitch to skip, and I'm going to go ahead and do a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to end that round. So we're going to start round 3 with a single crochet in the chain 1 space, and I'm going to do a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet in that same chain 1 space. And you're going to be working in each of those chain 1 spaces in those V-stitches. So you're going to skip this space here, and you're going to work in the next chain 1 space between the double crochets there. So single crochet, chain 3, single crochet in the same space. The next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet. The next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet, chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. The next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. So repeat that all the way around to the end of your round. So I've reached the end of that round. I have 1 V-stitch to work into here. So go ahead and do your single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet in that same chain 1 space. And what we're going to do to end our round is we're going to slip stitch into that first chain 3 space from the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and start another round of the V-stitch, and to do that we're going to do a chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, remember that's going to count as my first stitch plus my chain 1. Go ahead and do a double crochet in that same chain 3 space. And the repetition for this round is in each chain 3 space we're going to work a V-stitch in each one. So in the next chain 3 space, go ahead and do a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, V-stitch in the next, V-stitch in the next, and V-stitch in the next. Continue on that round all the way throughout till you reach the end. You will work a V-stitch in the last chain 3 space before joining at the end. So I've reached the end of that round. I'm going to go ahead and work that V-stitch in that last chain 3 space. And to join, I'm going to do a slip stitch in the top of that chain 3 from the beginning of the round. So here we are. We're going to do another repetition of the single crochet, chain 3, single crochet in each chain 1 space throughout this round. So go ahead and do a single crochet in that chain 1 space, 3 chains, single crochet in the same space. In the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. So all the way around, you're working in that chain 1 space between in the middle of that V-stitch from the previous round, all the way around. This is also the row that you will want to end on. When you've reached the desired length for your skirt, you will want to end on around 3. It gives us a nice finished edge without being terribly complicated. So just continue that on down throughout your round. You will continue repeating the last 2 rounds. Your next round will be your V-stitch round, and alternating back and forth. Continue on to your desired length for your skirt, and we will meet back here while I will discuss how to create your simple chain button necklace. Alright, so I've completed that final round of edging. I finished on a round with the single crochet, chain 3, single crochet in between each of those V-stitches from the previous round. I went ahead and took the opportunity to weave in all the ends from that skirt, and I am ready to begin making my button necklace. So to make this button necklace, as you can see on the one that I had made previously, you're going to choose which buttons you want. And for mine, I chose 5 different buttons, so get some that are color coordinated. And I'm going to use these 5 here. And for what I did is I did, you know, one color down here at the bottom since I'm doing an uneven number. So I'm going to do that with this pink, dark pink color, like a fuchsia. And then I will do 2 of this kind of burnt orange and then 2 of the regular orange up here. So let's see how that's going to look with my yarn that I used for this new skirt. Alright, so I think those buttons are going to look really nice with this cake that I used for this skirt. So we're going to go ahead and make a chain and add these buttons on. Remember I talked about how little yarn you would have left on that size 7/8 skirt? This is how much I had left. Not much at all. To make the necklace as I do for this one with the 5 buttons and the number of chains that I ended up doing to make the length that I did, I need about 120 inches, a generous 120 inches in order to complete that necklace. So all you're going to need to do is chain. Now make sure that you start out with a pretty generous length to begin so that you have enough to tack in the necklace to your dress, to that yoke. And this is a pretty simple little necklace. You're basically just doing chains in between your buttons. And you're going to do a total of 10 chains before you add your button on to your necklace. So just go ahead and chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to go ahead and add on our button. Now we're going to be adding those buttons on in a specific way. So you're going to want to line your buttons up so that you're picking up your buttons correctly. And remember I had wanted to have them lying on the necklace in this way. And since we're going to be picking up those colors, those buttons, from one end, so this is going to be where you're going to sew your necklace onto your yoke or to the seam of your t-shirt, I'm going to want to pick up the buttons in this order. So I'm going to pick up this one first, this one second, this one third, this one fourth, and this one last. So I'm just going to go ahead and place those in the order that I'm going to pick those up in, so I don't lose track of where I'm at and I pick up those buttons in the right order and they fall correctly on my necklace. So after I have chained 10, I'm going to pick up the first button. So go ahead and thread that first button onto your necklace. And how you're going to do that is you're just going to push that yarn up through the bottom of one of the holes and then back down on the other side. Go ahead and pull that yarn all the way through. You're going to snug that button up against your work. So grabbing hold of that button to keep it snug, you're going to take your hook and you're going to start chaining 10 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're going to go ahead and pick up the next button. And we're going to do that the same way. Grab your button, push that yarn through. You might want to go ahead and just put this on a needle to thread it through if it makes it a little easier. and down the other side. Snug it up. Hold on to that button. Chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we need our next button. So from down below, pull that yarn up, down on the other side, and snug it up. Chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Grab your next button. Chain 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now pick up your last button. And chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's all that is. Go ahead and pull your yarn through. You can see I had plenty of yarn left with that 120 inches that I cut. And now we're ready to go ahead and tack that onto my dress. Once we finished the chain button necklace, we're going to go ahead and attach that to our dress. And in order to do that, we're going to be attaching it to the front, and we're going to be tacking it in at the top of each of the shoulder seams here. It won't, of course, go all the way around the neck. It'll just attach here at the top. So I left long enough tails so that we can go ahead and tack that in easily. I also have a tapestry needle here, and one important note about your needle. So in this situation, you're going to want the eye of the needle to be, of course, large enough so that you can easily thread through your yarn. But you're also going to want something that's a little bit sharper than what you might typically use for a like weaving in ends situation. You're going to want to be able to easily pierce the fabric of your shirt. I have a little bit of a sharper needle here, but something that you can see I'm able to thread that yarn on through the eye. And we're just going to come in from the top. You have your necklace with the right side of the buttons facing out like that, and you're going to choose where you want to go through the fabric, and I am doing that through this seam area up here at the top. So just choose where you're going to go through and then pierce through that fabric. And then snug that chain up to the top. And I kind of pull and tug a little bit to where it's tight because that may relax as you're working on this, and you don't want some of your yarn to hang out like that. You really want that chain snugged up against your fabric. So then on this side, keeping that rather snug, you're going to want to attach this so that it isn't easily detached from your dress. If there's a tug that's given, you don't want it to release the necklace. So we're just going to attach it here, and I'm going to strengthen it by going through the fabric several times. And you'll notice here that I'm going through the fabric of the seam so that I'm not seeing it on the outside of my shirt. So I'm really just tacking and strengthening that necklace in a way that you're not going to be able to see it on the outside of the shirt. And just keep doing that until you feel, I may come up here, because you don't want to bunch all of it into the exact same spot. It's going to give it a lot of bulkiness. So, and then once you feel that it's sufficiently tacked on, you're just going to knot this off. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. I'm gonna go through as if I'm weaving it in, but I'm just gonna run it along here one final time. Making sure that that's good and tight. And then cut it off. So you can see that attached nicely to the top of the shirt. You can't see all of that work that I did to strengthen and tack it in from the outside. And we will repeat that on the other side of the shirt. And there you have it, the pretty Playdate dress, a perfect little dress for the little one in your life, with this cute little button chain necklace as an easy and fun accessory for your dress. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to get notified as soon as I release new videos. As always, you can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter. If you have any questions about any of my patterns, if you're having any difficulties at all, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to help. Again, I will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.